Hello everyone, my name is Blackwatch and welcome to another episode of my Siege lore series. We're at a really exciting time in terms of the Siege story because there's a lot of stuff in the pipeline that's been building for quite a while, and we're getting to a point where the storyline in Siege is taking much more of a centre stage position than it has done previously, and that's an exciting thing for players and for the sad people like me who dig through absolutely everything that's on the table. So we've got plenty coming up, and we've got plenty of stuff actually that has come to us in the past that is being made even more interesting by developments in the present and future. Specifically today, I want to talk about Harry's inclusion of Nighthaven in the first place. Now I touched on this in a previous video, but this is going to be a bit more of an in-depth look into the reasoning behind that choice to bring them into the fold, into Rainbow, and why he really wanted to do that in the first place, despite a lot of protestation, not just from the characters in the game, but also from players in real life. Now I won't blame you if you look at that decision to recruit Nighthaven all the way back in Operation Shifting Tides with a level of confusion. The decision has had its doubters across the board in Siege story-wise and in real life, as I mentioned, with quite a few fans being not the biggest fan of this decision, and the reasoning against it being pretty ubiquitous between characters in universe and the fans in real life. The recruitment of non-governmental members to Rainbow has previously been off the table, because this removes any temptation or basis for any one member to try and seek to gain from Rainbow's activities beyond the security gained by the team's existence. It was going to be a national gain as well, so there's no individuals as such looking to benefit out of what Rainbow does. Nighthaven, on the other hand, being a for-profit PMC with an enormously wealthy owner looking to make even more money, cut right across that intention and presented a dilemma that the team had never faced before. Now admittedly, she's shown in the past that she does have an interest, at least based on what she said to Harry, specifically during the cargo ship operation, that actually attracted a lot of the interest into Nighthaven from Rainbow in the first place, because they acted in a way that was very unlike PMCs in the past. But despite this, I think it's fair to say that Harry's intentions were less to do with his curiosity about the fact that they seemed to be a bit more benevolent than your average PMC, and more that benevolence was probably hiding something. Nighthaven had a lot to gain from their inclusion. Their tech development, whilst mostly in-house through their QCR division run by OSA, was now subsidised and assisted by Rainbow. Their actions were now centre stage during the Tournament of Champions, or Six Invitational, whatever you want to call it, opening the window for newer, bigger sponsors to come in and hopefully commit to them with some lucrative contracts. Those in real life complained that ultimately this was a betrayal of years of established convention for a Rainbow Six story. It's not a fantasy about made-up CTUs or internal conflicts within the structure, it's about fighting terrorists. At least that's what they'd like to think, but unfortunately they're wrong. Internal conflict is far from a stranger in an R6 story, with the Vegas games being a 2-chapter essay on exactly that, internal conflict. In terms of the made-up CTUs, I'll admit that this has also caught me off guard to begin with, but the canvas it's left us with in the end is a tremendously open one which I feel should be embraced. At the end of the day, if we'd stuck to nothing but the classic CTUs that were all realistic and actually pulled from the real world, we wouldn't have been looking at the likes of Nighthaven and the pretty incredible story that we're now getting to see unfold, and we also wouldn't have looked at one of my favourite operators in the game, and one of my favourite characters in any game out there, Sam Fisher, who has done a lot to forward the story for Rainbow, and also to bring himself back into relevancy after a few years of difficulty being one of the forefront guys in terms of the Tom Clancy offerings, despite the fact that he's always had a bit of a cult following from yours truly and some other people out there. Don't get me wrong, nobody's forgotten about Sam, at least not yet. The concerns of the characters, namely Ash, echo the previous 2 points insofar as she was sworn against their inclusion, fearing that a private sector group could misplace their loyalties, favouring their balance sheet over their new team. Yet through it all, like the writers behind this move, Harry stayed the course and let the plan show its worth. Nighthaven arrived at a time when Rainbow was only just starting to find its feet again. After several years off the map, something that we're going to be covering fairly soon, keep an eye out for that one, the newly formed team had tackled just one terrorist threat, in the form of the White Masks, but was still yet to really consider itself ready for the new threats still to come. They were, for lack of a better term, vulnerable, and Harry recognised this. By inviting Nighthaven to join the blossoming team, Harry had his biggest threat contained, satiated, and surveyed for now. The work that needed to be done to fully secure Rainbow's future as an effective force for good in the world was arduous, and asked a lot of the operators, even more so as the bad will of some people against Nighthaven had started to meet with a more positive outlook on the new team, as additional members joined, and Nighthaven began offering gifts and visits to the facilities, namely one facility in Singapore that will become very relevant very soon for us R6 fans. All the while, Harry's plan continued in the shadows. Informants within Rainbow, such as Flores, Zero, and Valkyrie, gathered more and more intel on the unit, and a pattern began to emerge. Nighthaven had an appetite for Rainbow's talent, and were sowing the seeds of division all along the way. In a grass is greener campaign of belittling, bribing, and sedition, Callie and her personnel had leveraged their budget and their no-strings appeal to plant their flag firmly in the heart of the team, and its effects were showing. Nighthaven saw Rainbow as competition in some way, and sought to dismantle it from the inside. Harry had achieved what he wanted to with Nighthaven's recruitment, to keep the enemy close and keep them watched, but I don't think he knew what was coming afterwards, as several of Rainbow's own decided to break ranks and join with the defectors. However, that's something for another video. A video that I've already made, so click on the card if you want to see it now. Ultimately, Harry had some good intentions when he did choose to bring Nighthaven into the fold, and I think he succeeded in his goal of keeping them pinned down, at least for a time. He knew that he wasn't going to be able to compete with Nighthaven on a technological or a personnel level at that point in time. The budget was just too vastly different, and the expertise were also struggling to match at the same time. But having that opportunity to bring them in, see how they work, and see the attitude that they really had, that was a little bit more focused on the profits and business side of things than the benevolent rescue of a cargo ship that had initially sworn on a lot of the operators in favour of Nighthaven, it seems like he got what he wanted and managed to pull away that veil that they created for themselves. Again, a lot of this is down to speculation. It could be that Nighthaven are actually a massive force for good in the world, aren't trying to kill all of Rainbow, and are a bunch of nice guys. But time will tell, and there's a lot more coming through the pipeline for us to enjoy as Rainbow Six lore fans. Sorry to get into this sort of semi-politics of the games when I was talking about the changes that were made and the bringing in of Nighthaven and CTUs and things, all that kind of stuff that people have talked about in the past. But I feel like for a decision like this, when we're seeing the payoff, we owe it as players to show our gratitude to the writers who put this together in the first place, because ultimately we can question those decisions as they come along, but there is no denying that it has paid off in an absolutely fantastic way, and the future is looking very rich, story-filled, and bright for Rainbow Six in the future. I said future twice. Anyway, I'm going to bed. It's very late at night. Double batching you, everybody. Thanks for checking in. Bye-bye.